Here's a staggering statistic. 1 in 3 workers in Canada has experienced some form of domestic violence in their lifetime. And more than half said that abusive acts continued at or near their workplaces.
Well, that is where Refer Her comes in. It's a new national awareness campaign calling on Canadian employers to take the problem of domestic violence seriously. And here to tell us more is the Executive Director of Women's Shelters Canada, Dugal. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for being
the
here.
invitation.
Thank you for being here. So first of all, what are some of the signs that someone you work with could be experiencing domestic violence?
Often it starts with absenteeism, somebody who's frequently away from work, maybe you don't always know why, being late or leaving early, being very focused on devices and feeling like you always have to have that device with you. Often in an abusive situation, the abuser requires an immediate response to any messages you send. And this could come on gradually over time. It could suddenly happen one day. And sometimes you put this down to poor performance, right? They're not focused at work, they're not concentrating, they're not doing their job properly. But it could actually be a sign that there's domestic violence.
Wow.
All right, so what responsibility does an employer have if they suspect something is going on?
So Canada has occupational and health regulations for most of the provinces and federally that require employers to have a policy that says if domestic violence is happening, this is what you need to do. Many provinces have domestic violence leave. So Ontario has 5 days paid leave, 5 days unpaid leave, and you can actually take up to 14 weeks off to deal with domestic violence and have your job protected if you need to.
Wow.
It's pretty impressive, right? It's really important because you know that's a complex situation. But not all employees are covered by all the different policies. So we recommend that people check in with Ontario Works or with their HR department, their supervisors, so that they know exactly what's on offer.
Wow.
Okay, so that's from the employer side. How can co-workers provide support?
So research we did a couple of months ago at Women's Shelters Canada showed that 1 in 3 workers are confided in by a co-worker. And I think if you think back to all of your different jobs, you can probably remember somebody who once said to you, oh, you know, I think there's something wrong in my relationship, that like I'm really worried, or they may have said something. So co-workers can respond in that moment and they can be receptive, they can find out information, but just they need to be careful not to overstretch themselves or overpromise. You need to keep within the limits. That situation can get complex, it can get hard. Maybe offering to help somebody out with shopping or saying that you'll stash clothes for them at work or something like that in case they need some help. Do what you can do, don't overpromise, and you can't promise confidentiality because if their life is in danger, you need to be able to say something.
Wow. Okay. So how does an employer approach an employee that they might suspect is experiencing domestic violence? This seems to me like a very, very delicate situation.
It is. You have to go very gently. Referher.ca offers what we call the 3 R's, which is the recognition, recognize something's happened. We talked about those signs. Respond, so in a careful, caring, a way that is gentle and doesn't blame them or doesn't seem to judge them. So you can't say, that relationship is terrible, you should just get out of it. Not that kind of thing, but more like, you seem really different at work. Is everything okay? More subtle like that. And then last of all, refer. So send resources, send a website or a phone number that person can use to call.
All right, and what if they don't want to talk?
Yeah.
What do you do then?
You have to stay and be their friend. Consistency is really important. And often, even in a supervisory role, you might say, I'm here for you when you're ready, because there's a power dynamic. You can't force somebody to speak. So you need to be very, very conscious of that. And, drop crumbs along the way is one of the ways I would say doing it, yeah.
Okay. So how can an employer ensure that they're not going to make the domestic violence situation worse?
Yeah. So intervening or like trying to get in there and say to the abuser, oh, I know what's going on. Like maybe that person is coming into work to pick up their partner. You can't say anything. It would make it worse because it escalates, so that person then feels threatened, or it makes them feel that the person they're abusing has said something in the workplace, and that could backfire on that person, and then they'll get more abuse at home or they'll get blamed at home. So employers can really only work with the person who's experiencing the abuse, and the role is really to empower that person.
Could an employer be held liable if they don't actually report what they think is suspected abuse?
They can, because of the policies in place. So the policy in place says the workplace must be safe. So whatever you do, if there's something coming into the workplace, whether it's affecting that coworker, your coworker, the person being abused, or the people around, you have to make the workplace safe. Outside of the workplace, the liability is very different. But the responsibility of the workplace is to make sure everybody feels safe and they can do their work and they have the tools they need and they get the support they need.
Okay, so what are the things that employers can do to support their employee if they suspect that they're experiencing domestic violence?
So obviously, a policy is important that explains this, but training people, bringing awareness into the workplace so that people know what's happening, they are aware that this is an issue. Offering additional, especially as a supervisor, listening and trying to negotiate. There's strict policies, but maybe you can help them see their way through those policies, explain them in a way that is helpful, and be flexible. I think that's one of the things we hear most, like shift your work hours, maybe shift where you're working so that the person who's being abused can maybe be in a safer space, maybe in a back room instead of out in the front. Gotcha. Those are some things that can really make a difference.
Okay.
Anu, thank you so much for joining us today. This is really important information.
Thank you.
So you want to learn more, you should head to referher.ca.